Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cute little card, a Valentine card, using the Santoro Gorjuss doll stamps. And I have a couple different versions here, but we're going to be making the one on the left, the one in the pink. So let's get started. I'm going to start off by using some soft finish cardstock from Elizabeth Crafts. It's 100-pound weight. And using the outside-in stitch rectangle dies from Fawn, I'm going to be die cutting the largest rectangle. I'm going to place a little bit of washi tape here to hold it in place while I run it through my die cut machine. Here I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum machine, and I'm putting the die a little bit on an angle just because it goes through the die cutting machine a little bit easier that way and saves on your plates a little bit as well. So here I'm taking it out of the die, and you can see that it has this beautiful stitched edge on it. So next I'm going to be using that border stamp along the right hand side there. And this is from the Santoro Gorjuss doll set. And this one is called Heartfelt Cling. And I'm just going to be taking this border. It's sort of an arch. And what I want to do is do it on both sides of my paper. So using my Misty stamp positioner, I'm placing that piece of paper 3 grids up from the bottom and 3 grids in towards the right, because it is going to hang over the edge a little bit as I'm stamping. So I'm placing a little bit of tape down there just temporarily to hold it in place while I position this. That way I won't need the magnets and they won't get in my way as I'm trying to do my stamping here. So I'm going to go ahead and lift up that stamp, and I'm going to take the Distress Oxide Frayed Burlap ink pad, and I'm going to ink that up completely. And you'll see here that it hangs over the edge just a little bit, but we'll clean that up later. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp that a couple more times. I think it actually took 3 or 4 times here to get the entire image completely stamped. And I wouldn't be too fussy. We're going for kind of an antique-y look anyway. Now I'm going to just flip that piece of cardstock over, again making sure I'm up 3 grids and to the right 3, just so that I know it's in the exact same place. And I'm going to stamp that again using the same ink that I used before. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that image. And you'll see here now that it's going to form this beautiful frame. And again, I had to stamp it 3 or 4 times in order to get the image completely covered. So now we have that stamped completely. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat set that a little bit because I stamped it so many times. The ink was very wet, so I just want to make sure I dry it before I go on at this point. Now using another gorgeous stamp set from Santoro, I'm going to be taking the Rainy Daze Tweed set, and I just want that circular area, the one with the lines on it. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in my Misty, and I kind of want to put it in the center of the paper because we're going to be die cutting that beautiful scallop border around that in a few minutes. So using that same ink pad, I'm going to go ahead and stamp that image. And I did stamp this twice. And you'll see that there are light and dark areas on the image, and that is the way it's designed to come out. So you get kind of an antique-y look. So now using my Lawn Fawn Scalloped, Fancy Scallop Circle Stackables, and I'm using the second largest one. And again, I'm going to heat set because it did get wet again with the couple of stampings. So that centers completely perfectly on here, which made it nice. And then I just put a little washi tape down, and I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Spellbinders machine as well. Now that's going to give me this beautiful scalloped edge around that frame. Now using the Lawn Fawn outside in stitched heart stackables, I'm going to take that smallest heart, And while I have the machine out, I'm going to run that through my machine as well. And that's going to give me this beautiful little heart with the stitched edges. So now I'm just placing everything down on a craft mat. And I'm going to use my Walnut stain ink, the Distress Oxide again. And I'm just going to go, using my applicator, go around the edges of that frame. I just want to darken it. I want the whole thing to have kind of an antique-y look to it. So kind of a tone-on-tone here on the edges. So I'm just going to go completely around that entire piece, adding that ink. And now I want to just use the ink that's on my applicator and fill in that area in the middle so that it's not so white. And now I decided that the edges just needed to be darkened a little bit more because I want your eye to come to the center. So I'm just doing that and just adding a little bit more ink to that center part there. And that's where my scallop circle is going to fit right in the middle. So I also wanted to, well, first off, I need to just punch out a few of those little areas that didn't come out in the die. And I'm using the Tim Holtz All tool to do that. And now I'm going back with the Walnut stain ink and I'm going to do all around the edges of that frame. And with the ink that's left on the applicator, I'm just going to lightly go around the edges of that heart. I didn't add any more ink, I just used what was already there just to give it a very light edge. Now I have that area in the center that I want to put my saying on. So I'm going to go ahead and place this in my MISTI. And I'm trying to line up the lines on that stamp with the lines on the grid, just so that I know everything is straight. I'm going to use a sentiment from How You Been Conversation set from Lawn Fawn. And I'm going to use the Happy Valentine's Day. What I had to do here was cut it. I took my scissors and I just snipped it into 3 separate words. And I know that's difficult for some of us to do, but I am getting better at doing it now. I used to never want to cut up my stamps, but now I find that it makes them a lot more versatile. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and using the Walnut stain ink, I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment right on those lines there. And it's just, the walnut stain is just a hair darker, so it looks nice. It makes it stand out a little bit more. So that's our basic layout for the card. Now taking the Santoro doll number 51, which is called Little Love. And I also wanted to show you this other one, which is number 57, Little Heart. You'll see that I used her on the cards that I show you at the beginning and at the end, the purple card that I did. I'm going to be using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth Surface Paper 100 pound to do my stamping and coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and place her on the MISTI stamp positioner. And I'm going to pick up the stamp and I'm going to ink it up with the VersaFine black ink pad. This is a permanent dye ink. I'm going to go ahead and stamp her, and she did stamp perfectly the first time. So this smooth cardstock makes it easy to get a good stamping your first time out. Again, I'm going to heat set that just to make sure that everything is all set and dry. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Gamsol blending solution from Spectrum Noir. And I'm using these blending stumps, and there's a little sanding block there. These stumps are from Art Alternatives, and you can use the sander just to sand down that point so you get a nice pointed tip to work with. And there's all different sizes in the set. And this little sanding block is by Lyra. And I'm going to go ahead and start coloring this image in using my blush pink Prismacolor pencil. I'm just going to lay that color down all over her dress, just in a random fashion. I'm not being very fussy here. And I just want to mention that the Gamsol is an odorless mineral spirit. But if you have any concerns about it, just close the lid as you're working, in between dipping the stump in there. You know, just use your own good judgment with it. And I do have a sharpener here that I like to use from Bruynzeel, and it's a metal sharpener, and it comes with these extra blades, and I do love it. It's really good. It doesn't break your pencils. It's really artist grade sharpener. And now I'm coming in with the next color here, and you're going to see that I'm just going to lay that down in the areas where I wanted to add a little shadow. And that one is called Magenta. And I'm just applying it in the pleats of her dress, down along the bottom edge there. And just making sure I get a little bit in there. Again, I'm not being fussy. I want the center of her dress to be the lightest area where the light might be hitting it. I'm coming in with my third color now, not coming in quite as far as I did with the magenta, and I'm using the Tuscan Red. And I'm just going along the edges, not as far in again as I did with the magenta color. And now what I'm going to do is take that stump and dip it into the Gamsol. And I'm just blotting it off a little bit on that sponge, and I'm going to start to blend those colors. And I kind of want to move the color from the darkest to the lightest into the dress. So I'm moving in that motion, kind of small little strokes, so that I'm pulling that color down. And you'll see what a beautiful blend you get with this. I mean, it's just so easy. Now you could blend using the blender pencil that is by Prismacolor, and I do love that as well. And I've also blended before just using a lighter shade. I like to blend with the white sometimes because it gives me this really muted finish. But using the Gamsol is really easy and gives it a very nice effect. And it doesn't take long at all. And you can see here you get some nice shading. So that looks like it's pretty good there. The next thing I'm going to want to do is color in those little hearts. Here I decided that I needed to add a little bit more color to the top of her dress there, so I came back in with a little bit of that magenta color, and I'm just going over that. Now I'm doing her collar with the Tuscan Red, and I'm going to come in and do those hearts, going back to that blush pink color. And I'm not fussing with these at all, just basically coloring them in. I'm not even going to blend them. They look cute just the way they are. I always keep a little cosmetic brush on hand just so I can wipe away any of the excess pencil, and that's what you saw me doing there. Now I'm going to do her skin tone, and I'm starting off with light peach, and I'm going around the edges with peach. So the two shades, the light peach and the peach, and I'm going to do her arms and her neck there as well, the same way, just adding a little bit of the dark for highlighting. Now I want to make sure I clean off the stump, so I'm dipping it in the Gamsol, then I'm cleaning it off on the scrap paper, and now I'm going to come in and just blend those colors in. And I just wanted that shadow around her hairline. And I decided I wanted to add a little bit of the pinky color to her cheeks. So I came back in with the blush pink and just added a little touch there to her cheeks. And I'm filling in the rest of the area back in with the light peach color. I'm going to blend out the arms and her neck, and you can see that that looks pretty good. And now I want to do her hair, and I just want that highlight to be right along her bangs and maybe a few little highlights on the outer edges of her hair. So I'm starting off with Spanish orange, and now I'm applying goldenrod. And I'm coming up again along the edges of that first color and just filling in a little bit here, just trying to blend those two together. And now I'm going to take sienna brown and do the roots of her hair and along the bangs there, and just fill that in her hair and around underneath her her neck there where the hair would be the darkest. And then I'm going to take my Gamsol again, checking to make sure that that stump is clean, and I'm going to blend that out. And I'm no expert on this. I just have fun and I try to get some highlights and lowlights and just make it look, you know, just so it has some interest to it. So just have fun with this. You know, you don't have to be an expert. You're really just looking to color it in and get the effect. And that's really all I'm going for here. So I'm going to keep fussing with that a little bit. I thought it needed a little bit more of the dark brown to blend it together a little bit there. But I still wanted to keep that highlight on her bangs. And you can see that looks pretty good, and I'm getting the effect that I'm going for. So now I want to do her little stockings there. So I'm just going to go back to the blush pink, and I'm only applying it to the sides of her stockings, the left side and the right side. Cleaning off the stump again, and then I'm going to come in, and it's hard to see on film, but I'm really just pulling in from the right to the left. I'm lifting the pencil each time to do that. And again, I'm going to go from the right to the left. I'm lifting and pulling it over so that I can keep that little highlight on the insides of her legs. Now I'm going in with the magenta color, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. And if you notice, I'm going over the lines because I'm going to be cutting her out, so I'm not worried about that. Just wanted to lay down my color and then pull it in. If you get too much color on the stump, especially when you're working with a small area like this, just clean it off and then go back to your image. You can see there I have some highlights right along the insides of her tights there. So I'm going to cover, make sure you put the cover back on the Gamsol and you know, secure that really well. And then I'm going to use my Jelly Roll white pen, and I thought I'd put the little whites in her eyes back in, you know, just make sure that looks a little bit more clear. Just gives her eyes a little bit more of a sparkle. Now I'm going to take my Spectrum Noir crystal clear pen, and I'm going to just add a little bit of glitter to the collar, the hearts, and you can see that gives a nice little sparkle there. Now I do want to fussy cut this out, and I do enjoy cutting. You don't have to be fussy in cutting her out if you don't want to. Just go loosely around the edges and it'll still look very nice. So here I'm just finishing up cutting her out. And then I want to make sure that I do the edge, the black edge around the paper there, just to finish it off, because she's going to be popped up a little bit. And I want to make sure that edge looks finished. So I'm just taking a black marker and I'm just going around those edges. You can see that finishes it off nicely. So now I'm going back to that same set of stamps, and I'm going to take the bow from that set and that little rose there. And I'm going to go back to using that VersaFine permanent ink. I didn't even put these on a block. They are sticky, so I just used my finger to pick those up and stamp them. It was just easy, and I guess I was being lazy, but it was just as easy. And then I cleaned those off. And now I'm going to color those in using the same exact pencils I used before, starting with the blush pink. And I decided that that ink might have still been a little bit wet, so I used my heat gun and just heat set that a little bit, just to be safe that I wasn't going to be moving that around. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply the magenta color again, just like I did on the dress. Just trying to find the areas where it would be the darkest. I'm going to do the same thing on the rose. And now I'm coming in with that Tuscan red, applying a little bit of that color just in the darkest areas there. And now I'm going to go back to the Gamsol. I did close it while I was doing these, and just I'm going to go and blend those colors together now. And you see how you get a nice little highlight there on the bow. Very easy to do. And I do just blot off the stump a little bit on that sponge as I'm going along. And now I'm going to do the rose in the same exact way. And I thought it just needed a little bit more of that magenta color, so here that's what I'm doing, just going in and applying a little bit more. So I'm going to cover that up again, and I'm going to cut those two images out. And again, I'm going to fussy cut those out. Okay, so now that we have those cut out, I'm going to go ahead back with my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen there, and I'm just going to go over the top of those two, just to give those a little sparkle as well. Now here I'm going to take the Hero Arts Earth Mixed folded cards, and I'm using that khaki color. And I'm going to place that mat onto that card. These cards are nice because the insides are white, and they're a nice heavy weight. And I'm going to take the Santoro ribbon, which has these beautiful, cute little hearts on it, and it's kind of a khaki color ribbon. And it's got a nice texture to it. It's got a little bit of a stiffness to it, which is nice. I'm applying a little bit of my score tape on the back there, just to place that ribbon, you know, get it lined up and get it in place so it doesn't move around while I'm working here. So I'm going to just take that, line it up in the center, and tuck those edges back. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my tape and place it all around all four sides, and a little bit in the center there, just to make sure everything stays in place. And I'm using the 1/4 inch score tape here to do this. Now I've got all the tape down, and I'm ready to position that onto my card. Okay, so we have that layer all set. Now we want to get this next layer in place. And I do want to pop that up a little bit, so I'm going to use my Scotch photo mounting tape. I'm just going to cut it into some pieces here. I know that I want some tape above and below that ribbon, so I might as well just get those into place. And then I wanted a little bit more on the bottom and top edge, so I'm adding a little piece in those two places. And I'm going to just make sure that's lined up and go ahead and place that down. Just making sure my sentiment is nice and straight. So that looks pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is get that little heart positioned, and I don't really need glue on the left-hand side there because it's kind of hanging over. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply my glue towards the right-hand side and get that glued down. And I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to do that. And I'm going to place a little dot of glue there and put my bow on. Now I've got my little doll, and again I just need the photo mounting tape on the right hand side because the center scallop circle is already popped up, so I just need to pop her up along that edge. So I'm going to put photo mounting tape on the right hand side and on her little feet there, her legs. And then I'm just going to take and put a little bit of glue along that other side that's going to lay up against that frame. That way I'm sure that it's, you know, secured down. And so she fits right in place there. And she's so cute. So now I had that little rose and I wanted to put a little flower in her hair. So I'm again taking a little photo mounting tape. And since it's going to be popped up, I did want to do that edge, use the black pen again to go around the edge of that rose, just to finish it off again, because it is going to be popped up and it will be seen from the sides. So that looks pretty good now. Everything's in place. And I decided that heart needed a little piece of photo mounting tape to the left side of it there, just to hold it up so that when it goes to the mail it doesn't get crushed there. So that takes care of that. And so now we have everything pretty well done. The last thing I wanted to do is come in with my Nuvo crystal drops. It's the carnation pink, and I'm going to apply some dots of color onto this. I'm just testing it off camera there just to make sure the air bubbles are out of it. Trying to get my camera close enough so you can see what's happening here. And I'm just going to squeeze a couple little dots out. And the best way to use this, according to the manufacturer, is to use it pretty much straight up and down. You know, drop that dot down and lift straight up. And if you get those little points on top, sometimes you can just tap the paper and they will drop down. Or you can just kind of use a circular motion when you're pulling up and it'll drop those down. But you can see here I'm not really having any problems. Everything seems to be going fine. So now I've got those little dots of color. And that completes the card for today. Here's the completed card we just did. And coming up next will be the one I did in the purple colors. And that I used Crushed Grape Nuvo drops, the Hero Arts Cards Floral Mixed set, and the Prismacolor pencils in Lilac and Mulberry. So I hope you had fun today. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and visit me at my website, pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much for visiting, and I hope you have a great day.